You've probably seen some of the alarming headlines popping up about a new street drug. They're calling them zombie vapes, and wow, they're being linked to some truly terrifying and deadly traffic incidents. So, what are these things, and what is actually going on here? Let's get into it. I mean, just try to picture this. You're on the street, and you see a car just swerving erratically, moving super slow, and then bam! Out of nowhere, it guns it and just plows into a line of cars and motorcycles. It sounds like something straight out of a movie, but this is a real quote from a witness at a tragic crash in Taiwan. It's one of many, and it gives you this really chilling idea of the kind of danger we're talking about. And that, of course, brings us to the big question. What on earth are zombie vapes? What is in these things that can turn a driver into such an unpredictable threat? And honestly, how did this whole thing seem to just pop up out of nowhere? Okay, so let's talk about that name, zombie. Why that word? Well, it's not just media hype. That name comes directly from the really disturbing and frankly dangerous effects this drug has on people. Now, when you hear zombie, you might think of aggression, but that's not it at all. This is about a complete and total loss of control. Users get hit with this sudden, overwhelming drowsiness, they become deeply confused, and they get these uncontrollable muscle tremors. So imagine feeling dizzy, totally uncoordinated, your body just spasming on its own, and now imagine that person is behind the wheel of a car. It is an absolute recipe for disaster. So what is the chemical that's causing all this chaos? You might think it's some brand new crazy synthetic compound, but the truth is, it's a drug that's been quietly used in hospitals for decades. The substance is Etomidate. Yeah. For more than 50 years, doctors have been using this stuff as a really powerful anesthetic. It's used to put people under for surgeries and other quick procedures. It was actually developed way back in the 60s and has a great reputation for being effective and safe on the heart, when used correctly, that is. So the key takeaway here is this isn't some strange chemical cooked up in a garage. This is a legitimate medical drug. And this is where it gets pretty startling. You have these two completely different worlds for the exact same drug. In a hospital, it's a life-saving tool, given intravenously by a trained doctor. But on the street, it's inhaled for a recreational high, causing this terrifying impairment. It seems to have first popped up as a street drug in China around 2021, and from there, its abuse has just spread like wildfire. So this leads to the next logical question, right? How does a hospital-grade anesthetic get diverted and end up in illegal vape pens being sold all over social media? Well, the journey is a pretty classic story of a modern international drug operation. Police have pretty much mapped out the whole thing. It starts with the Etomidate being sourced, often from pharmacies in Southeast Asian countries. Then it gets smuggled, usually on planes, disguised as other legal chemicals to get past customs. Once it's in the country, it goes to these hidden labs where it's mixed with solvents and, fruit flavorings to make it vapable. From there, it's put into e-cigarette cartridges and sold online. And believe me, it is a very profitable business. A single one of these cartridges can sell for around NT $2,000. That's about 65 US dollars. That kind of money is exactly what fuels this whole illicit market and, sadly, shows just how much demand has been created for this incredibly dangerous high. And now we have to connect all this back to those tragedies we started with, because the end of that supply chain isn't just a financial transaction. So often, it's a devastating, fatal event out on our public roads. I mean, just look at this timeline from Taiwan alone. It is absolutely bone-chilling. In June of 2024, a police officer, Huang Wei-chen, was killed. A few months later, a police chief was struck and literally pushed for 500 meters by a car. And then, in December, 2 more innocent people lost their lives in a single week. A 73-year-old man just taking out his trash, and a 55-year-old woman in that huge 12-vehicle pileup we mentioned. This isn't some slow-burn problem. This is a full-blown crisis, and it's escalating fast. So, faced with this kind of carnage, you can bet authorities across Asia are scrambling to fight back. The battle against zombie vapes has shot to the top of the priority list, kicking off massive police operations and some really swift changes to the law. And the scale of what they're doing is just staggering. Get this, in a single 3-month sweep, police in Taiwan seized Etomidate products with a street value of NT $260 million. That's over 8 million US dollars. They took down 18 different drug labs, which just goes to show how deeply this trade had already embedded itself. And the laws themselves are changing at lightning speed. All across the region, governments are racing to reclassify Etomidate and slap some incredibly severe penalties on it. In August 2024, Taiwan made it a Category 3 narcotic and brought in a huge fine for just refusing a saliva test. Hong Kong and Singapore went even further, with penalties up to life imprisonment for traffickers in Hong Kong, and in Singapore, mandatory jail time and even caning for suppliers. They are not messing around. Look, authorities did act, and they acted fast once the danger became crystal clear. But it took multiple tragedies to even get to that point. And that just leaves us with this much bigger, much tougher question for the future, right? In a world where new drugs and new ways to abuse old ones are constantly being invented, how can our laws and our police ever hope to stay ahead of the curve and prevent the next zombie vape?